first session of the good presentations. Presentations are geared towards informing participants of all the details concerning competition, the judging criteria, what is expected of them, what are the aims of the competition, how they can allocate points for each criterion, and what's not. So, before we continue, we're just going to outline the competition. The competition runs in phases. Phase 1 was the launch of the competition, which took place on September 11th. Phase 2 was the public awareness campaign, where we visited schools, most of whom did not participate in last year's competition. The Chumuka and Tourist Secondary School was one of them, and we were fortunate to gain their participation this year. And phase 3, which is what we're having now, is the good tips presentations. The good tips presentation is where we explain to participants everything concerning the competition. We clarify whatever misconceptions you may have about the competition. We basically answer your questions, and in partnership with the Toastmasters, today we have Toastmaster Ryan, Mr. Ryan Hazel with us today. He'll be giving you a presentation on how to give effective presentations. As you know, the competition is done verbally, so you have to go in front of the panel of judges and present your presentations. So in order to help you with that, the Toastmasters will give you a presentation where you're expected to take points on how to improve your skills in that aspect. You follow me so far? Right. Okay. As you know, the competition is broken down into two categories: literacy submissions in the form of applications, mobile applications, and innovations, which are the ideas. I believe you entered in the ideas category, right? Okay. So basically, that category encourages students to come up with a proposal to implement a system within the public service sector. You have to target a government, so a public service, and the idea that you're proposing must be directed towards them. You have to propose change within that public service. And okay. So for the competition, you have to clearly outline what your mobile application or idea does, how it works, the key features. What problems does the mobile application solve? Description of the problems or discomfort that is being felt by the public, and a clear outline of how the mobile application solves these problems. How is your mobile application innovative? This is where you be creative, because more than one schools may present basically the same app or take on the other one, but how yours is different, how yours is more creative from theirs. Yes. How yours is more creative from theirs will determine who will be the ultimate winner there. So creativity is a key in this competition. The target market. When you propose your proposal, you have to state who it is targeted. So if you develop an application for the police department, you will say it's the application targets the policemen and women of sanitary organizations, or the civilians, or whether you do something for the healthcare system, targets nurses, doctors. Whatever it is, you have to state that clearly. How will the mobile application or the idea save government money and resources? That is also very important. In proposing the mobile application or the idea, you have to state clearly in what way will this save resources? How will it benefit them? So you can't just say, I'm proposing change to the Elizabeth Memorial Hospital and we'll implement this and that and what's not. So you have to say, how will the implementation of your proposals help them to save when the money, workforce, paper, ink, pen, whatever it may be. For judging, we group the participants according to their geographical location. So you will be in the Leeward zone, which is zone C, and judging begins on the 17th of November. with Kingston zone, which is zone A, followed by the Windward zone, zone B, and then Leeward zone, zone C. Okay. Besides the monetary incentives which you will receive if you place in the top 3, participants can gain a lot from the competition. They can build their research skills because the competition encourages research. When you're preparing your presentations, you're expected to go into the public service which you're proposing change to be made and conduct your research to find out if when you implement an idea, how you will save resources, like I said before, how will it impact on on the system they currently have, and other stuff like that. Okay, for judging, you will have maximum of 7 minutes to present. So when you come before the panel to do your presentations, you have 7 minutes to present. After that 7 minutes, the judges will take a little time, not much, and then there'll be a 5-minute round of questioning where they question you based on your presentation. So if something was not clear about your presentations, we will ask a question pertaining to that. So make sure you do your research, make sure you know your work. Right? The panel of judges consists of 5 persons from the Ministry of Education, ICT personnel, the Center, the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, and the Ministry of Finance. From each zone, 2 finalists will be picked from each zone to go on to the finals. So if your presentation wins the judges now, then you can go on to the finals, where in the finals, those who do not place in the top 3, they get $500, I believe, Sharon, for participating. So don't worry, you still get something if you don't place. Okay, let's go on to the judging criteria. The first sheet is what we will be using for the preliminaries and finals for the idea category. There are 3 criteria which are broken down into sub-criteria. The first criteria is the presentation criteria. This carries a total of 50 marks. In this criteria, we have the introduction to the idea and the tagline, which means when you come to present, you have to state clearly what is it you're proposing to change, and the tagline. You know, like okay, the tagline, it is so good. You have to have a tagline, something like, not like exactly like that, but along that line. You understand? Right. You have to identify the problem statement and the problem that the project is addressing. So you have to, this is very important. The problem statement is important because the first step to problem solving is to identify the problem. Right? Or you outline the procedures necessary for the implementation of the idea. So, like when you're doing an SDA, you have the method of the method that you have to carry out. So this will be, so the procedure necessary for implementation will be like the method in the SDA. Right? Okay. The explanation of how your idea will work once it's implemented, that will be like your discussion. So this is where you say, when you implement this is what will happen, this is what you will expect to happen. So whether you will expect the service to be faster, more efficient, more convenient, whether there will be a shorter turnaround time, whether you can save more money, whether it can be done online, like that, that is what will be, that's what you will explain in that criteria. The features of the idea, like how your cell phones may have features such as, like the Samsung smartphones, they have certain ringtones and features to them, right? You follow me? Yes, you have to state what features that your application will have or idea will have. The pros, cons, and limitations. You know, man are not perfect. So when we create something, it will have a flaw or something. So you have to state the cons to your project and the pros. The limitations are limited factors that you can't really control. Like, let me see. Like maybe okay. Say you're carrying out an experiment in sunlight, but the sun is not shining that way. That is a limitation because you can't control the sun shining that way. Okay. Target market, like I explained before, you have to say who the project is geared towards, whether the police officers, the civilians, the healthcare service workers, yes. The explanation of the intended result. That will be what you expect to have to come about from it. So whether you expect more money to be saved, resources to be saved, less time waiting in line, like that, you have to explain that. And the quality of the presentation, the fluency, which is not what I'm doing right now. I'm not fluent at all, but yes, you will get help in that aspect from the Toastmaster. Fluency, structuring, the body, the conclusion, the use of grammar, and you have to be consistent and effective. So this is just where the judges will look at it, listen to how you present, whether it's fluent, whether it flows, whether it has a beginning, a body, and ending. You will get 5 points in that aspect. The impact. The impact is where, when the idea is implemented, how will it, okay, impact. When the idea is implemented, what changes then will be the environment? So will it make a fundamental change in the process, whether it will be faster, slower, less time spent? How will the government benefit financially, whether they will save resources or whether your project is cost effective, meaning whether it's little money will be spent using it. You have to state facts. Like I said, that's why research is important. You can't come and say the police department can catch 3 criminals per week using your project. You have to go and see if that is really true. How does this solution relate to solving the problem identified? So if your problem is there are too little the services delivered by the nursing case or hospital, they are too slow or they are not efficient, then the solution that you're proposing must relate to that problem. How practical is it? Practicality is if it's really makes sense to implement it. If whether you can see you're going to implement, I don't want to say airport. Okay, you can't see what you implement an airport as necessary and that's not possible. So practicality has to do whether it makes sense to do it, whether it can be done. Can be successfully implemented. That will be determined by whether the procedures and explanation of how it will be implemented are clearly stated. When integrating the existing system or sector, you have to clearly outline that also. And the final criteria is innovation. This is where, like I said before, more than one person have the same project, basically, but how else different from theirs, how it is creative, it's new, fresh, that's what we're looking for. So you can score a lot of points in this category. And you have to state what your project can be materialized into, whether it can be a video game or a mobile app or you have to state that. And you get bonus for using helpful visual aids like PowerPoint presentations, dramatizations, or whatnot like that. You get bonus points, and for doing the presentations within the 7 minutes, you get another bonus point. And the round of questioning is very judges. Like I said, they're going to pose questions to you on stuff that may not have been clear from your presentation. So don't be frightened about that. As long as you know your stuff, session, this is for those participants who will be going forward to finals. So if you are selected to go through the finals, you will get the comments to see where you can improve basically your presentation. So thank you for bearing with me so far, and I hope your presentations will be good, hopefully be fresh, hopefully innovative. Thank you very much. At this time, I welcome Toastmaster Hazel to do his presentation.
Good afternoon, guys. Miss Evans did a very fantastic job. It was a mouthful because of the nature of the competition. What I'm here to do is really to identify skills that you probably already have. Presentations are really people fair them, but I'm here not to tell you about the butterflies, because everybody gets butterflies when you do presentations, but to actually help the butterflies fly in formation. Make sense? Because you don't ever get rid of your butterflies. You just control them. Alright? So, I was looking at my presentation and realized that it's quite in-depth. So what I'm going to deal with first and foremost is number one, fear that people have in their presentations. Anybody know what that is? What's the number one fear? People have fear of dying, fear of heights. What's the number one fear? You guys could answer too.
Embarrassment.
Well, in essential, that is what it is. It's fear of public speaking because people don't want to be embarrassed publicly. Alright? So, whenever speaking to the public, people have that number one phobia, speaking before an audience. I'm here to tell you that that ability to speak before an audience only comes with practice. It's like everything else. The discipline of practice leads to mastery. So once you have a presentation, you know what you're supposed to do, you know your idea, your presentation, you just have to be familiar with it. Know what you're presenting because the judges are going to be asking you or quizzing you based on your presentation. So your presentations must be clear. Alright? And before your presentations can be clear, you have to get rid of the nervousness. Alright? Only very few of us have been born as orators. Orators are talented speakers. Right? Almost everyone will be nervous before a presentation. For beginners, nervousness may easily lead to a lack of confidence caused by feelings of being inexperienced. You don't have to have that feeling at all. Alright? Once you know, product knowledge is paramount. Once you know your idea, you're the idea category, right? Yeah. Once you know your idea, you have to be confident about presenting it. The idea is to get your audience to know this idea that you're presenting. Alright? So you have to be adept. You have to be familiar. You have to be aware of what you're presenting. Make sense? Because if you don't know what you're presenting, how do you expect your audience to know? Alright? You're the key. Alright? You might have little visual aids that you can use to help enhance your presentation. But at the end of the day, the presentation is you. Not your computer, not your projector. You are your presentation. Does that make sense? Because you're the one who's going to be there, letting the judges know what exactly you are presenting. Alright? So, product knowledge is paramount. In this case, it's the idea category. So, knowledge of your idea is basic. You have to have the basic knowledge of your idea. Alright? So, first time speakers often interpret nervousness as a sign that they are apparently capable of delivering good presentations. This is not true. All the symptoms that accompany nervousness, such as frequent swallowing, trembling, what else people just do? Cold sweat, perspiration, you don't have to worry about those things. These are signs that your body is getting ready for something important. Athletes, stage performers, musicians, and even experienced speakers have learned to recognize these symptoms and appreciate it. Alright, remember I told you about the butterflies before? These are some of the butterflies. You recognize them, you get rid of them. You get rid of them by what? Practicing. I want you to understand. When you're presenting anything, you must practice it. Practice makes so you're familiar with that school of thought. So you must practice your presentations. That is going to set you apart from your competitors. Alright? You have to be familiar with what you are presenting. Whenever you do a presentation, practice is important. Alright? Experience is something that will come in time. By practicing and by analyzing your presentations by people around you. So when you're doing your presentation, get your fellow students or get your teacher, get people around you, even at home, get your parents or your siblings to give you pointers, right? Or you can enhance. Because to be a speaker, you have to speak in a language that your listener can understand and at a level at which your listener is capable of operating. So if you're going to speak before an audience, you're going to speak to the judges, you have to speak so that they can understand. You don't have to go into the hyphen jargons. Basic down to a language to make the audience or the judges become aware of what you're presenting. Alright? So always remember that in terms of your preparation for your presentations. Do not go into any highfalutin jargons. Don't use, some people use big words and all that stuff to get their point across. You don't want to lose anybody by doing it. Keep it simple and have fun doing it. Make sense? Keep it simple and have fun. If you take care to avoid a number of typical mistakes that people have when you're making presentations, you will be on the right path. If you don't understand the basic principles of how to apply them, you will be in a better position to win the competition. Hence, lack of experience is not important provided you prepare for your presentation. I already said that. Alright? So I'm going to give you 10 steps for effective presentations. You can write them down if you remember them. So these 10 steps go back to 2 basic principles I want you to remember. First, what is the message you want to convey? Or what is the idea you want to convey? And second, how does your audience understand this message best? Alright? So I repeat, so for the judging, you're going to tell them what you're going to tell them and tell them what you've told them. Does that make sense? In your presentation, you tell them what you're going to tell them. It's yours, it's theirs, right? Tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you've told them. That is basic presentation that we will teach you in Toastmasters. Simple. First, your presentation must have an introduction, it must have a body, and it must have a conclusion. So you put it in just the right side. Tell them what you're going to tell them, that's your introduction. Tell them what you told them. No, tell them which is your message, which is your presentation, your idea. In your conclusion, tell them what you told them. Alright, so your opening, your body, and your conclusion. 3 basic components of the presentation. Basic. It can get really scientific, but it all goes up to those 3 basic components. Introduction, body, and conclusion. Make sense? Alright, I hope that makes sense. All right.
So let's explain the introduction.
Your introduction. Let's go to the introduction. That is in your introduction is basically your opening. You put introduction, you think that that's a big word. your introduction is your opening. Your opening, what I've seen in past presentations, is that your opening, it could be your tagline, like she mentioned. If your tagline is impactful and it's catchy, you might want to use your tagline to open with. You can use a dramatization in your tagline, you can use a quotation in your tagline, you can use whatever you want to do. At the end of the day, I want you to remember that you're using your own presentation style. Your own presentation style is all up to you. Alright, but once you have your transitions, your opening, your body, and your conclusion in your presentation. Make sense? So back to the opening. So your introduction is your opening. That is the first few sentences that you catch the audience with. Some people use something called a rhetorical device. That is really a scientific question, a question that you ask, you prompt your audience to have them thinking. Alright? So you can use catchy or maybe even a provocative statements. Did you know that over 1,000 persons in the medical profession or the nursing profession clock in using the wrong time? Because you need to sell the idea that they need a time machine. I think they use this antiquated method of writing in your time. Half the people write wrong times. So if you're selling an idea, you're going to introduce this new machine where they can time it or they can snap the face or whatever. Then you'd want to state the facts. And the facts would be, did you know that half of the medical profession signed in using the wrong time? Talk provocative questions. Does that make sense? In your opening. Alright? So a scientific question or a catchy or provocative statements. Perhaps you could already give the conclusion of your work too. If you know what is the conclusion of your idea, you could probably use it in your opening. Try to speak not too slowly, but try to speak with emphasis. And look at your audience. Look at your audience in the eye. Eye contact is important. In Toastmasters, they tell you, in order for you to get your audience to be sincere or to get that earnestness from the presenter, you have to make eye contact. More eye contact means more sincerity. More sincerity means that the judges are probably buying into your idea. Alright? So, eye contact encourages confidence, encourages, it makes them know that you know what you're talking about. So you can make eye contact with me. You know your idea, you're going to sell it to me. Alright? Eye contact is important. Alright? So you speak with emphasis, not too fast, because sometimes when you practice, you practice in terms of timing, and you know everything already, and you get up there and you just speak fast, you cannot understand. You have to speak in a language that you listen can understand, and at a level which you're capable of operating. Take your time, pronounce your words, and speak clearly. Speak audibly, speak loudly. Project your voice and tell your abilities. Does that make sense? Alright. So, before you give your opening sentence, it is a good start to address protocol. You're familiar with protocol, parliamentary procedures, where you say, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen,
That was the introduction.
In your introduction, there would normally be a protocolist that you're wherever area you're speaking from, and you know who's, but really and truly, basically, you address the chairperson and ladies and gentlemen of the audience, members of the audience. Alright? Judges. Because half the time, protocol has already been adopted or established. Alright? So if you're doing presentation, you don't want to waste your presentation time going through protocol. Alright? So in your introduction, you can always address the chairperson only and move on, move right into the presentation. And if you've already been introduced, Sometimes you don't even have to you can jump straight into your, especially in a dramatization. You jump straight into your dramatization. Alright? Then you speak. So that's for any questions on the opening or introduction. No questions on your opening? So, once you have had your opening, remember what I told you to do before. Go through with your teacher or your parents or whoever, and let them tell you ways you can improve. So look at your own results, try to think of the most relevant way to get it across. Try to imagine yourself speaking before an audience, and you have to consider what you have to include in adding your information. So we move to the body of your presentation, the message, the selling of the idea. This is where you tell them what your idea is of. So you try to capture the message of your presentation in your message, in the body segment of your presentation. You will only be able to do this if you really master your subject. If you know your subject, only you can tell your subject. You will master your subject. How do you master your subject? How do you master your subject? What did I tell you before? You practice it. You rehearse it. You know it. Part of knowledge. Yes, you study it. You study what you will present. That is how you will be able to master your subject. So, and that is the actual requirement. That's the main requirement for being able to clearly present your work to others. You have to master your subject. You can't speak on a subject you have not mastered. Nobody else knows your idea. Alright? You know your idea, so master it. Know what you're going to tell them. Tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them. And tell them what you told them. It all boils down to that. Alright? So that's the body of your presentation. The message, idea, the pitch, say a pitch. So, you can move to, I remember Miss Edwards was talking about, you sharing your results and your findings and so forth. So all that is a part of the body of your presentation. You can go into identifying the problem, and then the solution, and so on and so forth. So you mention the results. And then you move to your conclusion. Any questions on conclusion? What is a conclusion?
This where you dramatize.
No, you can do a dramatization in your introduction, but your conclusion is really your ending. It's just a big word for your ending of your presentation. End. How do you end? How do you wrap up everything that you said before? How do you end? So your conclusion should be properly announced to regain full attention. You ever see the Prime Minister speaking? And as soon as he says, in conclusion, so everybody starts listening again. You might have lost in the body of the presentation. But when he says, in conclusion, he's wrapping up. So you would want your conclusion to be very effective. Your conclusions should be effective. So you should present your conclusions in relation to the questions you raised in your introduction, if you did a rhetorical device in your introduction. Alright? Question?
So the introduction is very important.
Introduction. Every part of your presentation is important. Your introduction is important because why? It captures the audience. It makes them think. In your introduction, it makes them think, am I going to listen to the rest of this presentation, or based on that introduction, I really think I want to hear anything else. Alright? So an introduction is paramount. It's very important that your introduction be catchy. Alright? But I know you guys are brilliant, and your ideas alone is enough. Your ideas alone are enough to capture your audience. Alright? So you don't have to worry about the catchy. I'm pretty sure once it's an idea, you don't usually get ideas, you usually get apps. But the idea category usually have limited participation, if I may say. I stand corrected. But once you have an idea, presented. I'm sure that will be catching enough. So, in your conclusion, you present your conclusion in relation to the questions you raised in the introduction. Avoid all the relevant information in your conclusion. All the relevant details will have come in your body. The details will have come in the middle part of your presentation. Once you finish your conclusion, you may acknowledge the people who have helped you, if you so desire. Or in your conclusion, you can say, for instance, as an example of conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I hope that I have convinced you that my idea, alright, whatever your idea is, which is, it could be supporting a very promising catalyst for converting methane into synthetic gas. That's scientific. And you take it away. This is the take-home message. This is what you want people to leave the room by remembering your conclusion. Alright? So your conclusion should be catchy as well. Alright? What do you want people to leave the room knowing what you presented? The take-home message. Alright? So if you want them to remember your school, you mention your school name in your conclusion. Alright? If you want them to remember your idea, you mention your idea name in your conclusion. If you want to put in that catch, what was it? The catch tagline in your conclusion, you can put your tagline back in your conclusion to cement your idea, to cement your message, to ensure that your idea went through. Alright? Any questions? I noticed somebody asked me about visual aids. Because you have an idea, people sometimes, because it's an idea, you can't see an idea, you share an idea. Some people don't feel the need to have a visual aid to get your idea across, to get your point across. I think visual aids are an awesome tool to get your ideas across. I don't know what your idea is, but if you're going to use a PowerPoint presentation, remember in your rehearsal, ensure that you use the equipment in your rehearsal as well. So when it comes to time when you're presenting, you won't have any technical glitches. So it will be on the proper rehearsal you'll be doing before you meet the judges. Does that make sense? You familiarize yourself with your equipment so that when you stand before an audience and present, you won't have any technical glitches. Does that make sense? Practice makes? Alright. So any other questions? Comments? I received comments, queries. Is there anything that anyone said? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Anytime. Like if you go over 7 minutes,
That's a beautiful question from Ms. Evans. So more than likely, just based on past experiences, you don't want, which is why practicing is important. You don't want to be going over time. So once you practice your time, this is what you practice in something. You need time to do presentation, you do everything. If you practice with time, you don't have to wait on an MC or a bell to ring to know that your time is up. Because you have done the necessary practicing before. But let them know what happens.
Okay, if I may interject there. How judging is done, right? And you come to present. You hear the bell to start, and then at the end of when you reach 6 minutes into your presentations, you hear a bell. That will let you know you have 1 minute left to present. At the end of 7 minutes, you hear 2 bells. I'll tell you it's not useful, but you can continue, you can wrap up what you have, your presentations. But if you go for 8, but at the end of 8 minutes, you have to end your presentations. You have 3 bells and you end your presentations right there.
Judging stops.
Right. So is that clear? Any more questions pertaining to judging?
Is there a penalty that goes with that overtime?
There's no penalty, but if you stick within the 7 minutes, there's a bonus. You get a 5-point bonus. So try your best to stick within the 7 minutes period.
So like if you dramatize the way, like show your idea, you get extra.
Yes, dramatization will come on the visual aid, so you get a bonus for that.
10.
5. Any questions? The judging sheets that you have in front of you, those are what the judges will be using. So you can use them in preparing your presentations. So you get a good grasp of what your presentations must entail. So when it comes to questioning, you know you've covered everything, so you won't have to worry about them asking you hard questions, right? Okay. So at this point, I'll let Mr. Hazel wrap up this presentation.
Alright, there's some pointers that we've observed over the years in terms of presentation. Excellent figures have the highest impact. So if you're going to do proper research, so that when you share your research, the figures that you share will have maximum effect. It will be extremely efficacious. Alright? So excellent figures have the highest impact. And a picture is worth 1,000 words. You've heard that before. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So if you want to use visual aids, whether it's before or whatever, it is going to be even clearer when you present. Figures, especially those are written by expression, will need to type at the same time. Understand how they have to get a translator. Alright? Or they need to translate. Alright? Using tables and numbers in most cases is not recommended. Remember that an audience reads everything you show them on a projector. They read everything. So if they're reading, you want to be reading stuff and paying less attention to what you're saying. Because remember I said you are the presentation, not what you project. Alright? On a board. So avoid theoretical formulas and mathematical derivations. Sometimes you have to just show one or two, but try to keep it to a minimum. You should realize that the human memory remembers in terms of pictorial information. Hence, clear figures, schemes, and diagrams are the best means to convey your information, to convey your idea. Alright? So, I would like to stop right there and remind you that timing is absolutely necessary. If I go over time here, you get bored, so I have to stop. Timing is paramount. So, that now comes to the moment of truth. I am back over to Ms. Edwards. Thank you for your time.
Okay, let's give Mr. Hazel a round of applause for his presentation. Thanks for presenting for us today, and we hope that the participants will take what you've said to heart and incorporate it into their presentations. At this point, I just want to know if there are any questions about the contribution that they're not clear on that we can clarify.
Start the presentation for the zoning. You have a specific date for it?
Yes. The outline that we have during starts, preliminary round starts on November 17th with Kingston Zone, followed by the Leeward Zone, and then the Leeward Zone. The Leeward Zone is broken into two, which is those on the mainland and schools in the Renegades. And then after preliminary round judging, that's where we select from each zone in each category, which is the mobile application category. category and the ideal category to go to the finals. We inform you of those who will be going to the finals, and then you have more or less like 2 months to prepare for the finals. The finals will be in January 15th, 2015. Let me just reiterate the prizes for those who may not be familiar. In the applications category, the first, second, and third prizes range from $3,500 to $1,500, and the ideas category ranges from $2,000 to $1,000. The positional prizes for those who the non-positional prizes is $500 to each group. So to reach the finals, you get $500 if you do not place. And the mentors for the first places, you get $500 for the innovation category, and applications category, they get $700. And the schools that with the most participants, they get $1,000. Any questions? Got that?
So, like if we come and present it here and then make the finals on everything.
No, you're not. But you get the experience. You'll get the experience.
Only money in the finals.
Yes, so that's why you prepare well, prepare thoroughly, make sure your presentations are really good to guarantee your place in the finals. God, that's what you want. Okay, well, to sum up, I just want to thank you for taking the time out to come to the Barrouaille Learning Resource Center at the first session of the Good News presentation. I hope that what was presented to you, you will take it to heart, you will use it in preparing for the preliminary